I chose next to wander by Bethlem Hospital. I had a night fancy in my head which could best be pursued within sight of its walls and dome. And the fancy was this: are not the sane and the insane equal at night, as the sane lie a-dreaming? Charles Dickens wrote those words over 150 years ago, but what he said is still relevant, is still radical today. He was writing at a time when people with mental health problems were shut away in asylums. But he was saying that in fact the barrier between so-called mental health and mental illness might be no broader than that between sleep and wake. My name's Niall Boyce. I'm the editor of the Lancet Psychiatry. The core of what we do is research, trials and epidemiology and so forth. But the arts and the humanities can also give us a very important perspective on mental health problems, and that's something which I'm going to be looking at. The walls and dome Dickens wrote about were here in Southwark in London. In Dickens' day, this was the location of the Bethlem Royal Hospital, one of the oldest mental health care institutions in the world. It's moved around a bit in its time, and you won't find it here anymore. This building is now the Imperial War Museum. Since 1930, the Bethlem Hospital has been in Beckenham, about 10 miles away from Southwark. Despite its various moves, the Bethlem has managed to hold on to many mementos of its past. They're on display here at the new Bethlem Museum of the Mind, which is in the same building as the Bethlem Gallery. These sculptures were created in the late 17th century by a Dutch sculptor called Caius Kibber. They're called Raving Madness and Melancholy Madness. One way of seeing these sculptures is to think of them as very stereotypical images, whether the artist intended it or not. What I get looking at these sculptures is a sense of the patient's distress at his illness and at the way he's being treated, and to me, this promotes empathy. There are other, more modern interpretations of and expressions of what it's like to live with mental health problems that are on show here at the Bethlem. This part of the exhibition is dedicated to therapeutic relationships, to healing relationships. This painting of a social worker called Kahindi is by an artist called George Harding, who is the 2015 cover artist for the Lancet Psychiatry. George Harding's paintings are also here. We're now some distance away from the Bethlem Gallery. We're actually in Toronto for the American Psychiatric Association's annual meeting. And it's a really nice thought that thousands of delegates from all over the world have been passing by, looking at this work and taking it in. We all know how devastating mental health problems can be, but that doesn't mean that those who experience them are somehow people apart or somehow people different. There's an awful lot that we can do as practitioners and as members of the public by doing really just as Charles Dickens did 150 years ago on his night walks, stopping and looking and listening just that little bit more.